stages of this pandemic have really changed everything about the
Future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams.
Let me introduce our moderator of the session, Eklavia Bafe, Head of Asia of Coursera. Также разрешите представить...
Allow me to introduce our moderator, Mr. Eklavia Bafe, Head of Coursera Asia. We've also got our speakers with us today, Mr. Sayasat Nurbek, Minister of Higher Education and Science,
International Advisor on Public Administration, Jonathan Slater, международный адвайзер по управлению. Айнур Карбозова, Deputy Chairman of the Board of Нарикбаев Казгиу University. Айнур Карбозова, вице-президент Казгиу. Дархан Ахмедзаки, Rector of Astana IT University. Дархан Ахмедзаки, ректор Astana IT University. Передаю слово нашему модератору и хотел...
I'll give the floor to the moderator, and also will be joined by the governor of AIFC. Later, he is delayed at the previous session.
Join the governor of the Karat Kilimbetov. He will be just like later participate to us. Thank you and have a good session.
Okay, am I audible now? All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Eklavia. I'm the Regional Director for Coursera for Asia, and I'm based in Singapore. As you might be aware, Coursera is an online learning platform which helps universities to modernize the curriculum and also helps students in their employability. And that's why I'm very, very passionate about the topic of education. If you look at the sustainability goals that United Nations has laid out, they have come up with 17 sustainability goals. And one of the goals is quality education. And not only it is an important goal in itself, but it is also more important because quality education has the power of impacting the other goals. The other goals such as clean energy, gender equality, economic growth, innovation. And that's why I'm very, very fortunate to have a very, very elite panel with us to discuss this topic about investment in education is equal to investment in future. And since we are talking about education in general, I'll come to the Minister first. First of all, congratulations on your appointment as the Minister of Science and Higher Education. There are many, many leaders, academic leaders here who are keen to hear your thoughts on what are some of the things that you would want to do as part of your role in higher education. But I would start with something that we are seeing across the world, and specifically since we work with the companies and education institutes. We're seeing that there is a growing gap between what is being taught in the campuses and what is being needed by the industry. Because, you know, in the university, the learning happens according to the academic disciplines, while in the industry, the roles are divided according to specific skills. So there has been always a divide. But because of digitalization, because of so much of digital work happening, that gap is increasing day by day. So would love to get your thoughts on how universities can work to bridge that gap or at least lower the gap.
Well, thank you.
Good morning, dear friends, dear participants of the conference. There is no Kazakh translation. I think I'll start my speech with my remarks in Kazakh, and then I'll switch between Russian and English. First of all, our president has taken an important decision to divide the ministries. So one ministry is covering preschool. So it used to be that one ministry covered preschool, secondary education, vocational training, higher education, and basically from the birth of the child till the child is ready to go into the adult life, there was only one ministry responsible for that. And the preschool and the secondary education, they have their own procedures, their own regulation, whereas the higher education is more autonomous, is more creative, subject to self-regulation. It's closer to the real life. That's why having all of that within one ministry, all these spheres with different goals, it was very difficult to have it inside a single ministry. That's why just a few weeks ago the decision was made to divide the ministry. So we ask you to be patient because people are expecting some grand vision from us already. But first we need to start building the ministry. We need to cover all the administrative issues first. So be patient with us. Going back to the question from our distinguished moderator, we can see there is indeed a great gap. It's not even a gap, it's an abyss already. We can see the gap between the people who do have access to education and don't have access. And Mr. Pavi has already emphasized, indeed, Coursera has done some assessments, and we see that the pandemic has increased this gap. So pre-pandemic assessment and post-pandemic assessment shows a bigger gap in competences, in literacy, and access to education. We can also see that in our country. There are 3 or 4 big issues, I think, that the higher educational institutions are facing right now. First, we see an increased competition. Whereas until recently, the higher education was mostly following national standards, be it Kazakhstan educational standard, Russian or German educational standards, and there were some attempts to harmonize it through the Bologna process, for instance, credit recognitions, mutual recognition of diplomas, European credit transfer scheme, and so on. Now, I think we are seeing an interesting trend in the world where we are seeing supranational standards. We already see that there are big platforms on the market like Coursera, and there is this big race of providing educational services, and big tech has joined this race. For instance, Google, Microsoft has bought LinkedIn, Lynda.com, one of the pioneering companies in online IT education, and they are creating their own supranational global standard. They've got the LinkedIn learning certificate. Google, as one of huge transnational giants and one of the largest employers, is already creating, and it's already deployed, a supranational certification system and training system, a Google Learning Certificate, and so on and so forth. So right now, whereas in the past we had education which was qualified, certified, it was mostly provided through universities or vocational schools, now we see that other non-classical educations have joined that race. Gaming companies, or Lego, for instance. Lego education now earns more money than other departments, and that's become a cash cow. Everyone who works in robotics, educational platforms are being created. So companies have understood that gamification has become an interesting trend, and they can catch attention of the child for longer using that gamification. And I think that that's now become an objective in itself, not just transfer some knowledge, but capture attention for long enough to make this educational process happen. And big companies like Lego, Blizzard, Sony Entertainment have seen that they are now getting a competitive advantage in education, and they have joined the race. And a big problem for higher educational institutions right now is that there no longer is a monopoly to provide formal certified education. They're not alone in it anymore. The second big issue that the higher education is facing, and they will have to resolve that, is the limits of infrastructure. Actually, if we look into it, only about 350 or 400 million people have access to higher education right now. Formal education, I mean, those who are on campus and participate in some formal programs. So it's only a small share of people. And that's actually why one of the reasons why this big tech has joined the race for talent, because they understood very quickly that they can get a pool of people, of talents, from a limited number of people who have access to higher education, and they are hiring them. And now they're trying to provide informal opportunities, informal educational opportunities for billions of people so that they can expand this talent pool to go beyond simply the graduates of higher educational institutions. And I think that the universities during the pandemic have witnessed that. In general, the pandemic has been a catalyzer. Those issues have now become systemic, and everybody pays attention to it. Universities right now can only enroll a certain number of people, and the number of people who want to get an education, who want to build their capacity, is growing. There is another interesting factor. We see there is a growing life expectancy, and now they say that 60s are the new 40s, and we have a good case in Kokshetau University. They're called the Silver University. They've launched a pilot where they're offering classes for older people, because activity of people, because of expanding this lifespan, is being maintained for longer. They want to get educational services. They want to fulfill their dreams of the youth to get some degree and so on.
And the only way for the universities to improve those infrastructural limitations is go online, to digitalize, because building new infrastructure is too expensive and too long, and resources are not available. And the third limitation, the third issue that the universities will face, is the fact that the labor market is changing rapidly, and the demands and the requests from the labor market change quickly and rapidly, as moderator has mentioned. And I will continue in English.
And of the labor market, the landscape of the labor market is rapidly changing. And this change is so rapid, is so fundamental, right? That the education system, the formal education system, the national qualifications frameworks, the curricular development frameworks are not coping with the speed of that change. So we've been reviewing these mechanisms for the last 4 or 5 years. And what we've seen, the skills-based economy concept, I mean, the wave hit Kazakhstan about 10 years ago. The landscape has changed. Demands are very quick. It's like they're coming out every 2-3 years. The demands are changing. The whole national qualification framework mechanism is dragging behind. It takes about 4 to 5 years to design a new curricula. So the skills emerge, demand is defined for education system and for labor, the national qualification system to absorb that change, to comprehend that change and transform that change into a curricula, formal curricula, 4 to 5 years. In 4 to 5 years, when we start teaching students according to that emerging skill, it's not an emerging skill anymore. It could change dramatically. A new skill, a new demand might emerge. So this whole mechanism is not working. So we have to find flexible, quick solution to bring together, to bridge the labor market demands and higher education absorption rate, so to speak. So these 3 challenges will be on our agenda as well. We will have to work on them. And of course, I think the easiest, the quickest solution would be digital, because you can't bypass the infrastructure limitation. It'll take a lot of resources. You can't you can bypass legal framework limitations, but when you need platforms, you need quick solutions, you need dynamic, shareable platforms where all the universities could, give and take, basically. That's how science works nowadays. You take it to fundamental science, it's huge, it's all about huge data sets, huge data lakes, where every researcher, takes and gives back and enriches the environment. So I think we'll be focusing on these three limitations to meet these challenges. Thank you.
Wonderful, and thank you so much. And I must compliment how effortlessly you changed between the languages. And it was wonderful to hear your thoughts. I'll come back to you later. I have one more question for you, but I'll come back to you later. I'll come to Mr. Slater. We've seen that, and you've been a top civil servant and a policymaker. That's why I'm asking this question to you. We've seen that in the last few years, the skill-based economy has increased. And also the minister talked about how important it is becoming for the universities to become digital. So just wanted to hear your thoughts on how universities can become digital and how education in general impacts the economies and the other spheres of life.
Thanks very much for the question, and thanks for inviting me here today. I'm only going to speak in English. I can't compete with the minister. Very impressive. I was also, by the way, delighted to hear that the 60s and the new 40s. I think I'm the only person on this platform who can represent that sort of silver generation, and I can confirm, indeed, that the 60s are the new 40s. I used to run the Ministry of Education in the United Kingdom, where I finished about 18 months or so ago, and since then I've been very honoured to have the chance to work with some of you on the challenges you're confronting in improving the education system and administration in this country. It's a great honour to be learning from you and working with you. So what are these skills that people need? Based on my own experience, and I apologise, I'm a bit biased here. I'm a mathematician. That's what I learned at school, and so I am going to start off by saying that all the evidence suggests that if you're good at numbers, you're going to go far. We've done a lot of analysis in England that looks at the mathematical abilities of young people and compares how much money they earn in the world of employment on the basis of how well they did in maths at school. And there's a very strong correlation. The better you do at maths, the more economic potential you have as an individual. And so a really fundamental part of the reform efforts in the United Kingdom in the last 20 years was improving the basic numeracy of the entire, of all young people. We designed a curriculum for numeracy for every single young person in the country. And although, of course, as the Minister says, what might be seen as an emerging skill today might be a rather old-fashioned one by the time you've left school, some fundamentals, the ability to count, the ability to understand data, the ability not to be scared by it, frightened by numbers, it does turn out to be pretty fundamental. You can't correlate earnings potential with anything other than mathematics and literacy. Numeracy and literacy are the key skills for young people to learn that will make a difference to their earnings later on in life. The other thing that we learned was the vital importance of teaching people how to learn. Building on your point, if the challenges facing the economy are changing all the time, in precisely the way you said, there's never going to be a moment when we know it all, where we know enough. We've got to be able to adapt to the circumstances we find ourselves in. So the ability to learn, to use the jargon, metacognition, that's a sort of fundamental skill that we need to help young people to develop. I completely agree with you also about the importance of a partnership between educational institutions and their employers. When we ask employers what it is that they want young people to know, well, they do always say literacy and numeracy. They want the basics, and they want to have some basic digital skills. I'll come back to that in a moment. But more than that, they want what might be called softer skills. They want creativity. They want teamwork. They want communications. They want people who listen to each other. They want people who are kind to each other. That's what they want. Who can work together, precisely. And that those, what is the difference between a human being and a machine in the end? They want the human characteristics. They want emotional intelligence more than they want anything else. And the actual skills, the actual work-based skills, are typically better taught by the employer themselves than by an education institution. Why would that be a surprise? The employer themselves knows what skills they need from their people today. So a partnership between the education institution that can do the basics and can help people learn the ability to learn and can then meet the particular training skills, training offer that the employer wants. It's that combination of the two. We do, in the United Kingdom, offer sort of free literacy, numeracy training for any adults who've not picked it up sufficiently at school. And in light of the fact that, as the Minister has said, of course, we're in a digital world now, there's free digital skills training offered for all adults as well. But of course, if you look at youngsters in school, the typical young person is more digitally aware than their teacher and their parent, which rather sort of invites you to think about, well, what is the best way for people to learn? My 14-year-old daughter is perfectly digitally capable, not because of anything that I've taught her or because she's been taught by her teacher, but because she's on this, several hours a day, despite my best efforts. So yes, you need a combination of literacy, numeracy, and digital skills. But just to sort of finish off, the crucial question is, what have humans got that this hasn't got? And despite Google's efforts, we'll never have. I can be optimistic, right? And that is the ability to empathize. That is the ability to listen. That is the ability to care. And so fundamentally, I would say, above all else, the challenge for education is to grow young and older people who care about each other, are kind to each other, more than anything else. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Slater. And I took away 2 or 3 things from you, and this is kind of resonated with me. One was the correlation between the skill and the earning potential. And it got just reminded me of another report, another study that we did. And we saw, it is little away from the topic, but I just thought of sharing with you. We saw that the companies which had higher skills, the companies where the employees had higher skills, they performed much better on stock exchanges than the companies with lower digital skills. And that was true during the pandemic, because very easy to understand, right? During the pandemic, every company that was more digitally enabled was not only able to survive, but also do much better. So that's one. Second, you talked about human skills and soft skills as well. And this again we saw in Coursera when we looked at the top 10 courses that the people were taking and the skills that they were building in 2019. And then we compared it again in 2020. And there was a stark difference. In 2019, 8 out of top 10 courses were digital courses, IT-related courses, technical courses. And when the pandemic happened, people started to realize their need to mental stability, mental health, collaboration, human needs. And 8 out of 10 skills people were developing were related to mental well-being. And that's what, even if you read a World Economic Forum report that says that by 2025, the skills that the students would need will be a combination of digital skills and human skills. As you rightly said, anything that can be repeated, anything that you can teach to a computer will get replaced. But some innate human skills such as learnability, empathy, problem solving, leadership, collaboration, that will be needed in all our students. So thank you for sharing that. And I'll come to you, Dr. Ainur. Minister as well as Mr. Slater talked about global exposure for students, as well as the collaboration between the industry and the university. So I just wanted to hear your thoughts on how important it is for us to give global experience to the students, and does online learning or digital platforms have any role to play in that?
Thank you, Клавия. Қайырлы күн, құрметті біздің панельдік сессияға қатысушылар.
Good morning, distinguished participants of our panel session. The BCPD is hosting this session specifically within Astana Finance Days. Today we are going to discuss the investments in education. Thank you very much for your engagement. Do you receive the translation? As for your question, Clavia, the students nowadays in the universities should gain experience at the global level. To what extent this is important, how important it is to gain the global skills and the experience that Kazakh Humanitarian University. As you may be aware, Narikbayev's Kazakh Humanitarian and Legal University is a private university that has its role in the education system of Kazakhstan. And one of the strengths of the university is jurisprudence, law, teaching, psychology, applied psychology. We now dwell into these areas of education. And during the current globalization period, we provide the experience of learning not only in our country, but we also try to make the knowledge as global as possible. And now, since the ministry is named differently and within the new Ministry of Higher Education and Science, we have the program of academic mobility, and the universities under this mobility program can send students to other partner universities for 1 semester. And we have a great program that has been in operation for several years. Our university takes this opportunity. In particular, I would like to respond that our university has more than 90 partners. This is Germany, Poland, Czech Republic, and some Asian countries, for example, Japan, South Korea, and many other countries who host our students under academic mobility program. And their students can come to us and get their knowledge here. I believe that this is a good trend of globalization. If we look at current challenges and how we adapt to those global challenges, this normally happens through such measures and such programs, and we are grateful to the ministry for this, and we take this advantage. Now, the next is the dual diplomas. We are having another program, Top Up, in our university, where we use these mechanisms for our students to for the students when they study in baccalaureate for 4 years, and then for the master degree they study for 2 years. We would like to get them subject to international experience and we motivate our students, and as a result of this international exchange and practice, our students in the future will be more competitive at the labor market. They very quickly get employment, and they are well prepared for all the challenges. And they also develop various quickly soft skills and professional skills. Unfortunately, in Kazakhstan, in higher education, and we need to recognize that, many universities rather provide the theoretical knowledge, and students could gain great theoretical knowledge, but some of the state-of-the-art skills and practical skills are omitted. And when we choose our international partner, we pay special attention to the capacity of the foreign partner to provide soft skills. And we normally send our students to the institutions so that our graduates could work in the best international companies and could have theoretical knowledge, but at the same time he could get sufficient skills for teamwork for successful and healthy work, such as communication and other soft skills. And we believe that we are quite successful in that as a higher educational institution, and we use all possible mechanisms available by the state. Thank you.
Probably you missed the second part. The second part I had was around online learning or online education. Do you think online education or online learning opportunities for students, can they play a part in this?
I'm not yet doctor, but thank you very much.
I wish for that.
Yeah. Yeah, online learning is also is on the agenda, and 2 years of pandemic challenges did make all of the higher education institutions to meet those challenges, and we were lucky enough that we had the experience of online learning early before pandemic period came early 2020. So online learning is essential part of curriculum in Kazgu University, and we have all the e-learning tools available. And you've been to Kazgu these days, and you've personally, Yeklavia, witnessed all the programs we make available for our students, so they have a choice which of the program to follow and which of the online education tool to choose. So sky is the limit, so we're trying to do our best to make all online education tools available as well in our university.
Thank you so much. I'll come to Dr. Darkhan next. Minister alluded to the point that digital skills are becoming more and more important, but which is a good news for your university because you are a digital and IT university. But the other part that he also mentioned is by the time you learn a digital skills and by the time the student is ready to get into the job world, that skill may not be very, very relevant. It might be replaced by some other skill. So how do you prepare your students for this kind of changing environment while there's a lot of potential for your students, but also a need to continuously learn? So how do you prepare your students, or how can a university in general can prepare their students?
Thank you for your question. Енді әрине мына алдағы келе жатқан жалпы талаптардың барлығы университеттерге бір.
Well, of course, when we speak about all those requirements, they are all applied to all the universities, and in future we are going to enroll 200,000 students, and in our university we do take into account that we have to ensure lifelong learning after the 5th or 6th grade of school. We believe that we have to start forming the digital skills as early as possible through Java programming and robotics, and so that after the colleges we can provide the beginning engineering knowledge and then applied skills at the stage of a baccalaureate. And when they go for master studies, these knowledge are being expanded. What we need is skills in mathematics, in logics. And our university, you probably heard that according to the national testing, we have our internal exam, and we enroll based on the knowledge of English, computer sciences, and logical thinking.
Also, when we select the students, we have our in-house testing. So the students that get enrolled in 1 year can switch their majors. So if they enrolled into a certain program in 1 year, if they want to switch to a different major, an adjacent one, they will have this option. We had 600 people who enrolled for year 1, and only 523 have graduated because our requirements have become stricter, and they need to learn English, they need to do well in physics and math. Some students come to us thinking that they have a good knowledge of physics and math, but then they understand that knowing languages is important as well. So if we look at our projects or team assignments or other activities, we see that a very important factor is creativity. Without creativity, this science will become boring. And some people, when they come to us, they have a slightly different impression of what it's all about. And our president said that we need to train 100,000 IT specialists, and we are part of that objective. We want to ensure that we have 1,500 graduates per year in our programs, the undergraduate, graduate programs, and we also have a digital institute for continuous professional development. That's where the practitioners can come to get some additional knowledge, retrain, and we do have some other courses offered that are more like certification programs, and we've got over 4,000 attendees there. And basically, the requirements for the university are such that we need to provide a variety of training programs, not only formal degree programs, but also other professional development opportunities for practitioners.
Consists of the instrumental part, which cover only knowledge closing with the programming language and maybe simple technology or mobile application design. And second parts cover only fundamental, which included subjects closing with the mathematical logic, artificial intelligence, and so on, and which consist basic knowledge with understanding and design the logical and abstractual understanding of the whole world and maybe future jobs. And the last part consists of the knowledge closing the industrial competence. In that place, we try to attract people from industrial company, and they are deliver the knowledge with closing with the real competence and real industrial technology as a stack technology. And for our cases, we try to prepare new generation people which consist, which have the competence not only theoretical but also practical knowledge. And we now in Kazakhstan is new generation people who close working in digital transformation must have not only core knowledge with ICT, but closing with soft skills, and we also prepare specialists in IT management, digital transformation, and IT journalism. It's multidisciplinary knowledge, and we expect that's fully satisfying the requirements of our labor markets. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All of you so effortlessly switch between the languages, giving me complex. One quick reaction from Professor Anur as well as Dr. Darkhan. Both of you mentioned about the importance of having real life skills more than the academic skills, and we are also seeing increasingly when we talk to the companies, they are looking for candidates who not only pass with good grades, but also come with some professional certificates or other certificates to show their competency. Is there any thought process on how your universities are going about that?
In the Kazgyu University, we are thinking and we are saying that the life skills are important. We do have our own experience. We do have our own unique experience. The graduates during their last year of education will also get some training on how to be competitive in the labor market and the best employment opportunities. To do that, we use various mechanisms. One of such mechanisms is trying to adapt them to learn life skills and to get ready for the labor market. So during this final year of training, they get these specific courses. But we try to start that work from the freshman year. During the second year, well, in KazGU, I should say that we have four graduates. We have four schools: law school, humanitarian schools, and some others. And in each of those schools, we have created business councils, and during their second year of training, the potential employers can come and select some of the students, and each semester the students and the schools will meet, and we do have some internship programs. Through participation in those internship programs and through the academic mobility programs or dual degrees and top-up programs, so there are various opportunities on how to work with international universities. We also have guest lecturers, guest professors, foreign experts, foreign scholars, so that's all part of our activities. And also, starting with year 2, going back to Clavia's question, we are trying to get potential employers as members of the council. Every year, we try to use the capabilities of those business councils to organize internships. We can send our second-year students for internships, and through that mechanism, they can actually see the way they can apply their academic knowledge in practical world. They learn teamwork, and Clavia mentioned life skills, and that's the way for them to adapt to real life. And as a result, since we have 4 schools in the university, the graduates of these 4 schools, I should say that up to 60% of them get some job offers immediately. They are invited by the companies very fast. And in the first year, 92% of the graduates get employed. And I should also note that it's not simply any type of employment. I'm talking about employment in the sectors related to their degrees. So 92% of our graduates can get a job in the sphere of their experience, their profession, and we think that it's all done thanks to our efforts and thanks to adapting, trying to adjust our students to labor market requirements starting from early stages of education, not just during the last year. And we try to use various mechanisms, domestic placements, international programs, and so on.
And Dr. Kilimitov, thank you for joining. We thought we might miss you. And as you understand, today's topic is investments in education. And who better than you to talk about investment, right? You've been the governor of Central Bank and governor of AIFC now. I wanted to understand from you a macro view, how the investments in education helps in economies in general and helps in the gig economy right now and overall in the nation building.
Thank you very much. Very vast question. So let me, in a few minutes, maybe, to try to respond to, and why AIFC is actually, as a financial center, trying to contribute to investment to education area. But first of all, I think for good sign for all of us on today's session, we do have a Minister Nurbek, who is, we are proud, former fellow of AIFC. And he knows all the initiative, especially in the area of the human capital. So, which is, I think now we would like to also to push further using these great opportunities. And I know the great ambitious plans of the Ministry on Higher Education and Science. So I do believe that we can be helpful for the policies of the Ministry. So let me maybe start from very beginning. So usually when we're talking about capitals, so the people are talking more financial capital, maybe natural resources, natural capital. But you probably know that there is a famous theory about 5 capital, which is very important endowments for any country. So it's like not only financial, what, for example, we do have a national fund where we have a reserves for future generations of Kazakhstan, revenues which we get from the oil and gas sector. But also we know natural reserves of Kazakhstan, which all these vast mining opportunities and agriculture, but also a very important human capital, social capital. And I think in these terms, so previously I think human capital was not like a calculated certain type of kind of investable approach to why we should invest to this. And I think we all realize that, especially when we have this leapfrogging now, so many developed countries are moving to so-called fourth industrial revolution. So it's like a technological breakthrough. But some country can break through, some country would be left behind if they will not really pay attention to this from one side. From the other side, we know that this generation of millennials, so that's completely different request to the government services, to the state itself, and to education area, to education process, let's say, and we should count on this. And I think that what we see, like recent decade, is a huge paradigm change in education area. It's not like anymore like routine and very conservative sphere. It's a tech equipment and tools are coming, so we all very much proud that, by the way, the AIFC in 2017 first time partnered with Coursera. And I'm sure that everyone pay attention to Coursera or to edX, which is also like also another angle that not everybody has opportunities to study in the prestigious top 100 universities or has no money for this. But I think that this democratization through edtech system is very much important. So edtech, I think, is not less important than any other techs like fintech or techfin, let's say. That's why we invested heavily. So I'm very much proud that we do have a great team which is believes to the investment to education area, chaired by Yernuris Magambetov, who is, by the way, CEO of AIFC Authority. And the team, we created special bureau on continuous professional development. It's a special vehicle which is helping us to prepare the reserve pool of the candidates. So as we created the financial ecosystem, some people should work on there. And we are very much focused on the local let's say, experts who young local experts who can work. And I think we're proud that we went through 8,000 people went through our certification programs. I mean, even not our program, it's a global certification program in financial area, like certified financial analytics, for example. So we have 15,000 people whom we know we can propose to many financial institutions that they can double check with those people, they can work with them. And I think that this is a very good proposal, that we do have very well educated people who has a great certification, and at the same time, so we have more and less comparative salary vis-a-vis Western Europe and many other regions. So back to the particular AIFC, so we invest to Bureau invests to many type of platform, which is well known. So we are sitting actually in the premises, which is Alfarabius platform, University of the Future. But one is of the platform is very much close to my heart. So you probably know the Kazakhstan is focused to digitalization of the economy. So digital Kazakhstan is one of the priority for President Tokayev. And according to the national projects, we do have plans that we should endorse newcomers among the IT engineers, so we should bring 100,000 new IT engineers in Kazakhstan. So 100,000, I don't think that this is yet affordable for the higher education system. That's why I think that we need certain type of game changer decisions, or we need a symmetric approach how to prepare it. And we know that many systems like École 42, or let's say School 42, probably you know, and so we know one of the founders, so we are good friends and partners. Together with them, we created the new school, which you know very well, Quant, so which is already start to prepare IT engineers. And we started 2020, and you remember 2020, 2021 was the COVID time, and we brought innovations, which I think was not just the model of the School 42, which is famous in the world, but also make it online. I strongly believe that this online or distant learning is a good opportunity. If you can provide certain type of standards or certain type of kind of bring interest to the young people to learn through online, I think this would be the game changer. So these are something which we would like to pay attention, something which we would like to work with the government, with the Ministry of Higher Education under their leadership. So also we have a few ideas to bring, as President Tokayev requested, branch offices of the good universities from outside. And we do have a great premises here. So by the way, let me also sell you the ecosystem of the Expo site. So we do have here not only Astana International Financial Center, Tech Hub, Bureau, also have nearby Astana Hub. We have Astana IT University, we have nearby NU University. So it's a kind of a cluster for the new economy in Kazakhstan. And I do believe that we will partner in with let's say, best technologies in the world. We can achieve a great result very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for a very, very comprehensive response to a very, very broad question. But thank you so much for enlightening us. I want to come to Mr. Nurbek for the last question. You have recently assumed office. I don't want to put you on spot, but there are academic leaders here in the audience. They would love to know what are the kind of changes they can expect, what are the policy reforms that they can expect after you assume the role.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we've worked with Governor Kilimbeto for many years, and we've spent considerable amount of time in exchanging ideas on how to bring the education forward. So there's a Russian saying that the stupid, the fools share the same thoughts. But I like the English version better, the great minds think alike, right? So let me quickly focus on 8 areas I believe we should introduce, formulate as a policy of newly created ministry. Number 1 is closing the gap between industry and academia. And I've been working on this issue last 5 years. We've created a national project called the Atlas of New Skills and Jobs. And it's time to close that gap once and for all. We'll be revamping our national qualification system. We'll be revamping the whole mechanism of transforming the labor market demands and skill-based economy into fast, quick, adaptable, and flexible curriculum. So that'll be my priority number 1. Number 2 priority would be providing equal access to quality education. So we will strive, thrive, and fight for quality in higher education. I mean, if you take quantitative criteria, we're doing pretty good. I mean, you look at all the international rankings, equal access to education, infrastructure-wise, campus-wise, access-wise, we're doing quite good. But you take the qualitative criteria, that's where we're dragging behind. And it is time to fight for quality. We provide good access, but we don't provide good access to the quality education. So we'll be revamping our accreditation and certification policies. We'll be pushing and forcing universities to fight for quality education. A lot of ideas in mind, but we'll be giving public presentation of new policies. The 3rd priority is digitalization, EdTech and digital technologies. The pandemic was the great lesson, but nobody learned that lesson, in fact. The most of the universities said, oh, a bad dream, thank you. And they went on. So we would be working closely with big international partners, and actually we had meeting, early morning meeting with Coursera, and we were working with a lot of international companies to bring all the higher education institutions to certain quality level of introducing digital technologies. The first decision I made actually is to introduce CDOs, Chief Digital Officers, to every single Kazakh university. So we had a big meeting with the So we'll be building an infrastructure and digital team top down to bring digital and edtech to higher education. The fourth priority will be pushing further academic autonomy. We started good several years ago. Autonomy, thanks to a lack of institutional mechanisms, didn't went as planned. So there are three key things we need to reconsider and we need to refurbish. One is endowment funds, second is the Board of Trustees, and trust management. And we will be leaning on your support, Governor, using the AIFC legal framework for trust management and endowment issues. The fifth priority is self-regulation of universities. I do believe we need to decentralize the system. We have to give more flexibility and safe regulatory frameworks to universities so they could adapt quicker to changing landscape of labor force. They can meet those big challenges. They can they should have self-regulatory mechanisms plus autonomy plus those supportive frameworks to coordinate and focus on their local, regional, and sectoral problems. International academic mobility and bringing international perspectives. The only way to push our universities is to bring competition, is to bring big game changers to the local market. It's already started. At Governor and several of my panelists have already mentioned that. The President made several orders to open up branches of foreign universities. We'll be opening University of Arizona branch in North Kazakhstan State University. There are a couple of more universities entering our market. We have De Montfort University open in Almaty. So we'll be creating what we call a free academic zone. We'll be opening up our higher education market. And many countries did that. Malaysia is a good example. China is kind of opening up. So but sipping in some international cooperation. So our higher education institution have to be ready for big time competition. In 3-5 years time, the whole higher education landscape will be different, dramatically different. And last but not least is bringing the student-centric approach. What happened in higher education, we've done a lot of reforms, infrastructure, financing, faculty, legal framework. In all that wave of reforms, we forgot our major client, our major focus, the student himself. So we'll be focusing on bringing back the focus to the student and student-centric approach. So we already started revamping our policies to work out with student self-regulatory bodies, student governments, students' alliances, and so on and so forth. So these 7 priorities, and it would be the mid-term and short-term priorities of our ministry. We do have clear vision. We're 2 weeks old, but I've been working last 15 years in kind of shaping that vision, and with God's help and with your help, we'll need all the help we can to make education great again in Kazakhstan. Thank you so much.
So glad that I asked you this question because I thought it is just 2 weeks, but I'm glad that I asked you. It's already so clear with your reforms. And we just, yeah, I'm just wrapping up. Yeah. So we are over time, so just wrapping up. And at Coursera, we believe that the opportunities are not equal, but the talent is equally distributed. So talent is everywhere, but the opportunities are not. And I'm glad that as policymakers, as online platforms such as ours, we are bringing the learning ability for people to learn from wherever they want to learn. And very helpful to have such kind of discussions and keep discussing and refining the policies. And over to you for some announcement.
Мен 1 минут сұрадым біздің модераторларымыздан мынандай кішігірім жария.
I asked for a minute from the moderator. I would like to make an announcement. It's a kind of advertisement, I don't know, a commercial or whatever. I would like to make a statement. I know that 70% of the 70% of people in the audience I know personally. With some people I communicated, some people I collaborated with, some of us participated together in the conferences, so I know personally about 70% of the audience. I have a big request to you. The ministry has just started working, and now we have an opportunity to carry out deep reforms to transform the whole system of education and science, something that we could not change for 20 or 30 years, something that we dreamed about. And now we have a chance to do it, to reform. We have the support by the president with new Kazakhstan approach. And given that the new constitutional changes were made and our political model is now being changed, my big request is to all of you. The doors of our ministry are open for all of you. I'm open to all of your ideas, suggestions. If you have any ideas, projects, initiatives, please bring them to us. Anything related to education and science and research, if you want to participate in implementing those ideas, our doors are always open for you. You are all invited to be our team. Thank you very much. I'm inviting you to our team. I'm the person of middle generation. I'm 41 years old. We have the elder generation as well. They have their ideas and their expertise. We also have the young generation. We know you, those of you who studied under Bolashak program in the foreign universities. And my mission as a representative of middle generation is to merge and integrate various generations, these two generations, and bring you our education system to revival. We need assistance and energy of each and every of you. I cannot implement the reform alone by just being a minister. Our small staff cannot implement the reform. Only working together, joining our efforts, we can make New Kazakhstan a reality. Thank you very much.
Than this one. Thank you for this, for very welcoming as well as inspiring last-minute speech. With that, we'll conclude this session. I want to thank AIFC and BCPT for organizing this session, for the esteemed panelists to be part of this discussion today, and to all of you for being an amazing audience today. Thank you so much.